谁也也那哈嘞嘞呀那上哈啷哎那呀谁也也那。Yat e, Shikedo Shidene, members of the Navajo Nation, my relatives, my friends, community members, leaders, but most of all, those of you that travel the dirt roads of the Navajo Nation every day, from your homes to the store, to go get some gas, to get some water, to get some hay, and different things. This message is to you. On all of our campaign stops throughout the Navajo Nation in the past 35 to 40 days that we've been on this campaign trail, every stop, there's always a question about roads. Always a question about roads. And the question is usually posed, Mr. Jones, what are you going to do about roads? And I thought about it in so many ways and tried to simplify it and give some solutions as far as what my administration will do in addressing these concerns on roads. And one of the things that I would like to bring out is why so many people are really concerned about roads or the conditions of them. Because at one time, they just used to be wagon trails or horse trails. We didn't complain about them at that time. But this time, there are concerns. Our grandmas and our grandpas, and even our ceremonies, they have songs for roads. They have prayers for roads. They say, Yodenet is atkas epe she yaha atkin dolit. Endeta sa ahnagebik ahojon atim baka go yisha dolit. That's a prayer. It's even a song. What it means is that I want my roads to be filled with happiness and joy. I want my roads, all the goodness of this life, to be coming forth to my home on these roads that come to my home. So many of our relatives, they really take to heart the conditions of these roads in so many ways. The other issue, or the other reason why people are very concerned about these roads, are the fact that today an average pickup truck costs at least about $55,000 a year. And we invest a lot of money into our trucks, not just to look good, but these trucks are our workhorses. That's why we call them shilin, nihilin. They are thought of just the same way as we would think of our own horse. And so when we invest that amount of money in there and we have to go drive these roads that are all wind damaged, especially the washboards and all this the sand dunes and different problems that they have, our trucks really undergo a lot of wear and tear. So these are the concerns. And then one of the main concerns is our students. This coming fall, more than likely, the buses will be running again. And so these buses go through these roads. If they're damaged and if they have all of these conditions that are not conducive to a smooth, well-maintained road, there's a lot of wear and tear on these buses. Remember now, relatives, these schools get only a certain amount of money for transportation. That's it. And Washington does not even understand the conditions of these reservation roads. So when they fund these roads or when they fund these buses, they don't add extra money because the roads have washboards or they're washed out or they have wind damage. No, the funding stays the same. No matter how much we have lobbied Washington or the state's departments of education, legislators, Arizona, Utah, or even New Mexico. So it really does have a huge impact upon our schools as well. Not only our schools, but our ambulances and even our police officers. So these are some concerns that are presently there, and it appears that nobody seems to be addressing them. Every year, every 4 years, we have issues of roads. And so my campaign, the Justin Jones for Navajo Nation President, studied this, and we compiled something to be very simplistic, a very simplistic approach and solution to these road situation. Now, first issue that usually comes up when we begin to talk about roads is the fact that there's finger pointing. They say that, oh, that road belongs to the county, so you need to go to the county. Or they say that piece or that stretch of road belongs to the Bureau of Indian Affairs. It's a BIA road. Or they will say that road belongs to NDOT, Navajo Department of Transportation. That's the kind of finger pointing that usually we face when we try to tell our leaders or even these departments to fix a road, or even just to grade it, even just to remove some sand dunes. So that's a problem that is very much present today. And to me, I think that it has to take a president, a Navajo Nation president, to bring all parties to the table, reservation-wide, not just at the agency level, not just at the district level, but reservation-wide. To say, all you counties, come here to the table. All of you BIA, come to the table. Navajo Nation Department of Transportation is a branch under the executive branch. So I, as the president, would appoint the division director. And be assured, I will appoint a division director that understands this concept. But I'm not just going to leave it to the division director. I'm going to be personally involved. Why? Because I'm tired of having my truck needlessly have wear and tear because they don't maintain roads. I have about a 3-mile stretch from the highway to where I live at. And it is very, very bad. There's sand dunes, there's washboards, the wind damaged a good portion of it. And so I'm needlessly wearing and tearing my truck just to get to the house and come back again. So I'm going to have to be personally involved. Again, a president that understands and knows this firsthand on a daily basis in his life, that is what I'm going to be bringing to the table. Now, why are we going to be having this meeting? We're going to be having this meeting to ensure that we answer all of the innuendos, allegations, passing the buck, or whatever it is that we're facing every day when we try to talk about roads. No longer are we going to have people just pointing their fingers at, I'm going to tell every party there, you're going to have to understand one another. We're going to have to come to some kind of an agreement. We're not leaving this place, we're not leaving this room until we come to an understanding and agreement, and we're going to put it in writing. It's going to be reservation-wide. Because a lot of times an agreement will also clarify funding sources and the way that monies are appropriated. It will also clarify authorities and powers given to parties. It will also clarify the scheduling of maintaining these roads as well. And so those are really fundamental at this point. If we can just come to that agreement and arrive at that first initial step, I think we would have the wheels turning to begin to maintain some of these roads, my relatives. That's number one. Number two is going to be that from the office of the president, again, personally from myself, we're going to put all the regulations on the table. Several regulations that need to be examined immediately is, one of them is the archaeological clearances that are there. When we begin to start doing road maintenance or even backfilling or even graveling or even putting road base down, there has to be a clearance to say that there are no anasazi that are there that are going to be disturbed. But what the problem now is that a lot of these roads are already in place. And so all of these are already ongoing. So why are we trying to call upon the archaeological clearance process at this juncture in trying to maintain a road? It makes no sense. So then we're going to have to put the regulation down here and say, okay, what does the regulation say about archaeological clearance? I know for a fact that back in the 50s, the Navajo Nation Council adopted the Bureau of Indian Affairs regulations, and part of that regulation requires archaeological clearances. But we didn't have to do that because we're a sovereign nation. So we're going to have to come to the table and begin to talk about all of these issues. And if it's so that we don't have to be all confined to BIA regulations, we can begin to come up with different ways of exercising our true Navajo Nation sovereignty, and perhaps we can re-amend some of these regulations as well. A lot of Navajo elders and even just citizens in general, they're tired of these archaeological clearance process. They say that it's counter to our fundamental law. Why are we making special provisions for these Anasazis when we need water, when we need roads? Why are we subjected to these? It doesn't make any sense. That's from a cultural perspective, that's from a fundamental law perspective as well. But we need to bring that to the table to talk about this regulation. Some of the other regulations we have is that there are biological clearances that we have to have. Like, for example, there's a piece of road or a stretch of road that has owl nesting. And so we're going to have to work through that. And so you're going to have to take a step back and say, hey, how did we ever survive prior to some of these regulations, even in the 1800s, 1700s? There was a capacity and there's a process to live with nature, to live with habitat, to live with all of these things. There's a process. We still have those laws and we still live by them as well. So all of those we're going to have to explore, and those are some of the regulations that are really inhibitors of any kind of even just to put some piping in or even to extend some power lines. These are regulations that are there. It was not made by us, the Navajo Nation. We just simply adopted that from the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So we're going to have to take the time and exercise our sovereignty to explore some of these things. There are other issues that are involved in terms of roads as well. One of them is the fact that we have a community development, which the chapters are under. Then you have the Navajo Department of Transportation. You have two executive branches or executive level divisions that are under the executive branch. They can't really work together today. That's the reason why through the CARES Act, there's a whole bunch of graders, real beautiful, that were purchased for the chapters. But guess what, relatives? All those graders are just sitting there in the parking lot. They have no certified licensed grader operators. There's really no funding for the gas. They take diesel. It's about $6 a gallon. They need the hydraulic fluids. They need to have preventative maintenance. Nobody appropriated money for that. So now you have really brand new, nice graders that are just over there, maybe use them for photo ops, I guess. But they have no usage right now. Can't really do anything with it. So we need to have the chapters and then the Department of Transportation. As the president, I need to bring those two departments under the executive branch together and say, hey, guys, gals, Let's get this thing on the road. It makes no sense to have really expensive and nice graders over there. We can't even use them. And so those are the kind of planning and negotiations and understanding. But you need a leader that has to take charge in this. And there are problems within the department too. Sometimes that within, even with the Department of Transportation, or maybe it's even in the community development, you have supervisors, you have people just don't that just can't get along. All of those we have to put to the table and say, hey, enough is enough. We need to get something done here. We have people over there back home. We have people that really need their roads to be taken care of. So those are some of the fundamental initial things that we need to begin to address. The others are, again, you have roads. And I always say, it seems to be kind of a comical way to look at things, but I can even come out and say that I, as the president, will take the responsibility to ensure that I take care of my own backyard in Window Rock, Arizona. There are potholes after potholes after potholes when you start driving towards the council chambers, isn't it? And it just baffles me to know that that continues to stay there, continues to go. So I'm going to have to take care of my own backyard as well. So these are the kind of things that we need to begin to do as a nation, as a chapter, as executive branch, as people to fix this problem once and for all. Not just piecemeal it, not just put a Band-Aid on it, but to finally put a plan together that we can work on, that's going to operate like clockwork, day in, day out, week to week, month to month, year to year. This is the only way we can do this. We cannot blame one another anymore. We cannot pass the buck anymore. We have to really work on this and get it together. And I gave you like 3 or 4 things that we can begin to do this. And so I wanted to bring this matter out to you and to not only bring the issue of roads out, but to also to highlight some of the initial problems that I see that inhibits the maintenance and building of roads as well. One of the things that I think that's very important also is that the chapters, they need to get their act together as well. And as the president, I have to compel them as well to say that, can you withdraw some land over here so that maybe we can begin to produce some of our own gravel here as well? Because if we have to haul gravel from 200 miles away, it becomes very expensive. So there's plenty of rock out there. There's plenty of zones where there are rock. So maybe we can begin to start doing that. And so it might even be an economic opportunity for some of you chapter and communities, because you have good rock over there. You can develop that and sell that to us, the Navajo Nation Department of Transportation, as well. So it's an economic function now. So we have to begin to talk about a lot of these things and put these plans in place. So I wanted to share some thoughts, some ideas, and some specific solutions on how we can begin to address these roads that are on the Navajo Nation. And if we can do that, then we would be in a very good accord with the songs and the prayers that are iterated earlier to say that Yoden lezkas epeshe yaha athin dolit sa anagebik ahojon athin bakai shas dolit. That would be in accord with what those words would mean. So thank you again here for listening to me. And Justin Jones for Navajo Nation President, the campaign, the candidate with real solutions, specific solutions, and I am on ballot position number 4.